Buenos días, tardes y noches a todos los que siguen su canal de Cristiano Moderno. La transmisión de hoy será bilingüe. Good morning, evening, or afternoon to each and everybody who follows this channel of Cristiano Moderno. The transmission shall be bilingual. Ayer salí yo de compras a una tienda aquí cerca a conseguir unas cosas que ocupábamos aquí en la casa. Al entrar había unas personas a las cuales la iglesia les llama cuarto de simios. Voy a hablar un poquito después de esto en breve para que sepamos a qué se refiere. Que estaban queriendo predicar sus herejías y querer cambiar a la gente. Yesterday, my wife and I went to the store to get some things that we needed. As I was walking in, I was stopped by some people who were preaching the message of the Cuarto de Simim controversy, which is most of what this will be about. Spreading certain myths and misconceptions about Easter, or as we prefer to call it, Resurrection Sunday. And trying to impose people to go back to the Jewish customs of the Passover. Estas personas estaban promoviendo mitos y fantasías sobre la controversia de la fecha de la Pascua, queriendo imponer a la fuerza la versión oriental. Voy a hablar lo que ellos según dijeron y los errores que decían y cómo corregirlos para que nosotros no caigamos en ese problema. Dice Oseas 4:6, mi pueblo perece por falta de conocimiento. Por falta de conocimiento, mucha gente se deja engañar por ellos e interpretan las cosas de una manera equivocada. Hosea 4:6 says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So for the lack of knowledge, a lot of people let themselves be deceived by many and go with and decide to follow them. So we're going to talk what these myths and lies are that they were trying to promote. Why not? And we're going to correct those myths and those fallacies, those myths and mistakes that they were pushing. Error número uno. Error número uno. Bien. El error número uno. Error uno. Constantino cambió la Pascua. Mistake number one. Constantine changed Easter. Now, this is one of the mistakes that they were making. This is their first mistake that they made. Supposedly saying that Constantine had made changes to the date. Oh, according to him, the Christian church always celebrated Easter along with Passover according to the following of the Jews. Really? Is this really true? If we look at history, we see that this is definitely not the truth. The church, the early church, had a variety of different days to celebrate Easter, a variety of dates in celebration, as we can still see it reflected today. It was pretty much marked by West and East. In the West, the church has always followed a Roman calendar, the solar calendar, which is based on the movements of the sun. Therefore, concepts as new moon and full moon were not observed by the Romans in the West. The East, however, did follow the lunar calendar, upon which old Jewish traditions, even to today, are observed. La primera mentira que dicen es que supuestamente Constantino cambió la fecha de la celebración de la Pascua. Esto es una mentira, como voy a demostrar en breve. Ahora, en realidad, la diferencia en las celebraciones de la Pascua se marcaba en la diferencia entre Occidente y Oriente. En Occidente siempre se ha observado el calendario solar, en el cual no se toma en cuenta ni lunas nuevas ni lunas llenas, cosa que lleva a cabo el calendario lunar, que fija la fecha del 14 de Nisan, siendo esta una luna llena. Ahora, veamos, por ejemplo, vamos a ver, algunos dicen, oh, Constantino lo cambió con el edicto de Milán. Vamos a ver que el edicto de Milán no tuvo nada que ver con cambiar fechas. Veamos qué es lo que dice el edicto de Milán. Acompáñenme. Vamos a ver exactamente qué dice el edicto de Milán. Y el edicto de Milán puede encontrarse en el libro de Eusebio de Cesarea, Historia Eclesiástica, tomo número 10, el cual lo dice palabra por palabra. Este edicto de Milán nos dice lo siguiente y lo vamos a leer textualmente. Yo, Constantino Augusto, y yo también Licinio Augusto, reunidos felizmente en Milán para tratar de todos los problemas que afectan a la seguridad y el bienestar público, hemos querido nuestro deber tratar junto con los restantes asuntos que veíamos merecían nuestra primera atención al respecto de la divinidad, a fin de conocer tanto a los cristianos como a todos los demás facultades de seguir libremente la religión de que cada cual quiera. Vemos que el edicto de Milán no receta ni impone ninguna costumbre, sino que está dando un derecho a culto. Dice que todo aquel que pueda adorar libremente la religión que quiera seguir. No está imponiendo un cambio de fechas. Al contrario, está otorgando una libertad. De tal modo que toda clase de divinidad que habite la morada celeste nos sea propicia a nosotros y a todos los que están bajo nuestra autoridad, para lo cual es conveniente que tu excelencia sepa que hemos decidido permitir de ahora en adelante a todos los que quieran observar la religión cristiana hacerlo libremente sin que les suponga ninguna clase de inquietud y molestia. Así pues, hemos creído nuestro deber dar a conocer claramente estas decisiones a su solicitud para que sepas que hemos otorgado a los cristianos plena y libre facultad de practicar su religión y al mismo tiempo que les hemos concedido esto, tu excelencia entenderá que también a los otros ciudadanos les ha sido concedida la facultad de observar libremente y abiertamente la religión que hayan escogido, como es propicio de la paz de nuestra época. Nos ha impulsado a obrar así el deseo de no aparecer como responsables de mermar en nada ninguna clase de culto ni de religión. Y además, por lo que fíjense lo que dice, no habrá así el deseo de no aparecer como responsables de mermar en ninguna clase de culto ni de religión. No están imponiendo una religión, como esta gente mentirosa da a entender. Y además, por lo que se refiere a los cristianos, hemos decidido que les sean devueltos los locales en donde antes solían reunirse y acerca de lo cual fueron anteriormente enviadas instrucciones concretas, ya sean propiedad de nuestro físico o hayan sido compradas por particulares, y que los cristianos no tengan que pagar por ello ningún dinero de ninguna clase de indemnización. Y para el contenido de nuestra generosa ley pueda llegar al conocimiento de todos, convendrá que tú la promulgues y la expongas por todas partes para que todos la conozcan y nadie pueda ignorar las decisiones de nuestra benevolencia. Aquí, ¿en qué parte de aquí está hablando sobre el cambio de la Pascua? No está ni imponiendo una religión, ni imponiendo una fecha de la Pascua. Vemos entonces que del Edicto de Milán no se establece ni una religión nueva, ni tampoco se establece un cambio de fechas para la Pascua. Okay, one of the myths that they try to propose is the imposition of a new religion and a such a changing of the dates. And you ask them when this new religion was supposed to be established. Many of them cite the Edict of Milan of 313 as a reason for it. But is that really the case? We can see through the work of Eusebius of Caesarea, the Council of Milan, and his work. Eusebius of Caesarea wrote a series of books called Ecclesiastical History. In the 10th book, you can find verbatim, word for word, what the Edict of Milan specifically said. We find that in Eusebius of Caesarea's History of the Catholic Church, volume 10, chapter 5. And it reads, and we find that he cites word for word the content of the Edict of Milan. So, starting in paragraph 4, he starts citing the contents. When I, Constantine Augustus, and I, Lucius Augustus, came under favorable auspices to Milan and took under consideration everything which pertaining to the common good and prosperity, we resolved, among other things, or rather, first of all, to make such degrees as seemed in many respects for the benefit of everyone, namely, such as should preserve reverence and pity towards the deity. We resolve that is to grant both the Christians and to all men freedom to follow the religion which they choose, that whatever heavenly divinity exists may be propitious to us and to all that live under our government. We see that the Edict of Milan is actually doing the opposite. It is extending of freedom of worship to a church who, up until this moment, had been persecuted. We have therefore determined with sound, upright purpose that liberty is to be denied to no one. Liberty is denied to no one. Nobody is forbidden to choose and to follow the religious observance of the Christians, but that to each one freedom is to be given to devote his mind to that religion which he may think accepted to himself, adapted to himself, in order that the deity may exhibit to us in all things his accustomed care and favor. It was fitting that we should write that this is our pleasure, that those conditions be entirely left out which were contained in our former letter concerning the Christians, which was sent to your devotedness, everything that seemed very severe and foreign to all mildness may be annulled, and that now everyone who has the same desire to observe that religion of Christianity may do so without molestation, without being bothered. We have resolved to communicate this most fully to your care, in order that you may know that we have granted to these same Christians freedom and full liberty to observe their own religion. Since this has been granted freely by us, uh, to them, your devotees perceive that liberty is granted to others also who may wish to follow their own religious observances. It being clearly in accordance with the tranquility of our times, that each one should have the liberty of choosing and worship whatever deity he pleases. This has been done by us in order that we might not seem in any way to discriminate against any rank or religion. As we see here, the Edict of Milan has nothing to do with the establishment of new religions. It has nothing to do with when and how Easter is to be celebrated. So when they cite the Edict of Milan as a cause for to justify their lies that they say about Constantine changing anything in the church, this proves that at least the Edict of Milan is not it. Otra cosa que estos citan son el concilio de Nicea, en que supuestamente, según ellos, los cambios se dieron en el edicto de Milán. Perdón, ya vimos que en el edicto de Milán no se dio ningún cambio. El único cambio que se dio en el edicto de Milán fue el otorgar libertad de culto a una iglesia que hasta este punto era perseguida a morir. Pero veamos ahora el concilio de Nicea, que muchos de ellos también ponen como justificación de promover esa mentira de que Constantino haya hecho algún cambio. Todo sínodo o concilio, desde el concilio apostólico del año 50, que se encuentra en Hechos 15, en la Biblia, hasta hasta el sínodo reciente que hubo de la sinodalidad que hubo en octubre del año pasado. Todo sínodo o concilio produce un documento. Hay que leer estos documentos para saber realmente lo que ocurrió en los sínodos y cuáles fueron las decisiones. Puede darse por medio de una exhortación apostólica, alguna encíclica o en canones. Los documentos que salieron del Concilio de Nicea fueron 20 canones. Veamos cuáles son. Canon número 1 habla sobre la admisión y apoyo a la expulsión de clérigos castrados por elección o por violencia, haciendo referencia, por ejemplo, a gente como Orígenes que se autocastró. Reglas que deben observarse para la ordenación de los decúmenos conversos. Prohibición a todos los miembros del clero de morar con cualquier mujer, excepto con una madre, hermana o tía. Es decir, recordarles a los sacerdotes que no podían casarse. Respecto de las elecciones episcopales, la ordenación de un obispo debe realizarse por todos los obispos de la provincia. Respecto a la excomunión, reglas para excomulgar. Prevaleciendo, el canón 6, prevaleciendo de las antiguas costumbres de la jurisdicción del obispo de Alejandría en Egipto, Libia y Pentápolis, lo mismo que las del obispo de Roma, de Antioquía y las demás provincias. No se deben nombrar obispos sin el consentimiento del metropolitano. Es decir, cuando se nombraba un obispo nuevo, el obispo de la sede metropolitana tenía que aprobarlo. Confirmación de derecho de obispos de Jerusalén a disfrutar ciertos honores, reconociéndole el segundo lugar en su provincia después de Cesarea. O sea, en la región, en el Medio Oriente, primero estaba Antioquía, después Cesarea y después Jerusalén. Respecto a la admisión de los novacianos, ese es otro tema muy diferente que no tiene nada que ver con lo de la Pascua. Quien quiera que sea ordenado sin examen será depuesto si se descubre después que había sido culpable. Es decir, si hay alguna herejía que un obispo pone, puede ser destituido. Los lapsis, es decir, personas que dudaron de la fe en la persecución, habiendo sido ordenadas a sabiendo de o subrepticiamente deben ser excluidos tan pronto como se conozca su irregularidad. Es decir, si algún sacerdote obispo había sido un lapsi, el hecho de ser lapsis ya les quitaba el derecho de actuar como obispos. Penitencia de imponer a los apóstatas de la persecución del Licinio. Penitencia que se impondrá a aquellos que apoyaron al Licinio en su guerra contra los creyentes. Indulgencia a conceder a las personas excomulgadas en peligro de muerte. Penitencia a los catecúmenos que apostataron bajo la persecución. Los obispos, sacerdotes y diáconos no deben pasar de una iglesia a otra. A todos los clérigos se les prohíbe salir de su iglesia. Los clérigos se les prohíbe prestar a interés, se prohíbe la usura en la iglesia. Recuerda a los diáconos su posición subordinaria respeto a los sacerdotes. Los paulinistas deben ser rebautizados. El bautizo de los paulinistas no se reconoce. Los paulinistas serán una religión unicitaria. Los domingos y en Pentecostés todos deben orar de pie y no de rodillas. Estos son los 20 canones del Concilio de Nicea y vemos que en ningún momento se hace referencia a un cambio de fecha ni a un establecimiento de religión. Por lo tanto, este argumento de que Constantino cambió las fechas queda fuera. Queda demostrado que este no es el contenido en ninguna manera. Another lie that people say, referring to the supposedly Constantine changing the date, is talk about the Church of Nicaea. The Council of Nicaea of 325. Well, every synod or council since the Apostolic Council in the year 50 in Jerusalem, which is found in Acts 15, to the Synod of Synodality, which happened just last October. Every synod or council produces documents. It's never considered concluded until the documents are produced. These could be in form of canons or apostolic exhortations or whatnot. Now, and just like without those synods producing documents, so too the Council of Nicaea produced 20 canons. First canon, if anyone in sickness has been subject to physicians to a surgical operation, or if he has been castrated by barbarians, let him remain among the clergy. But if anyone in sound health has castrated himself, it behoves that such one, if already enrolled among the clergy, should cease. In other words, people who have chosen to castrate themselves cannot exercise as priests. Those who, for health purposes, have to undergo castration can. For as much canon 2, for as much either from necessity or through the urgency of individuals, many things have been done contrary to the ecclesiastical canon, so that many just converted from heathenism to the faith and who have been instructed but a while are straightway brought to the spiritual labor, and as soon as they have been baptized, are advanced to the episcopate or presbyterate. Okay, now it's talking about the abuses that were occurring in some parts of the early church where a person who has just been baptized is quickly given the level of priesthood. He's telling us no, somebody who had just been baptized cannot be named a priest, let alone a bishop. Canon 3. The Great Synod has stringent forbidden bishop and presbyter or deacon, or any one of the clergy, whatever, to do what is to have a subintroducta dwelling with him, except by only a mother or sister or aunt. In other words, priests cannot get married. A priest cannot have a woman living in their household unless they are um, their mother, their sister, or their aunt. Canon number 4. It is by all means proper that a bishop should be appointed by all bishops in the province, but should this be difficult either on account of urgent necessity or because of distance, 3 at least should meet together, and the suffrages of the absent also being given and, and communicated in writing. Regulations to choose a new bishop. Concerning those, whether clergy or the laity, who have been excommunicated in several provinces, let the provision of the canon be observed by the bishops, which provide that persons cast out by some be not readmitted by others. In other words, if one bishop excommunicates somebody, another bishop cannot accept them, take them back. Let the ancient custom of Egypt, Libya, and Pentapolis prevail, that the bishop of Alexandria have jurisdiction in all of these, since the likely customary for the bishop of Rome also. Likewise, in Antioch and other provinces, let the church retain their privileges, and this is to be universally understood. So they're talking about the ranks of different dioceses and patriarchates. Since the custom of ancient tradition have prevailed that the bishop of Aelia, Jerusalem, should be honored, let him saving its dignity to the metropolis have the next place in honor. The metropolis was the most important city due to certain situations that had been going on for the previous 200 years. The church in Jerusalem was not at a level to be called metropolis. So the metropolis over the Middle East was Caesarea, and second to it was Jerusalem. Concerning those who call themselves Catholic, if they come over to the Catholic and Apostolic Church, the Great and Holy Senate decrees that they who are ordained shall continue as they are in the clergy. But it is before all things necessary that they should profess in writing that they will observe and follow the dogmas of the Catholic Church. So they're talking about accepting people from other denominations who were um, clergy in their own denominations. If any presbyter or priest, having been advanced without examination, or if upon examination they have made confession of a crime, and men acting in violation of the canon have laid hands upon them, notwithstanding their confession, such a canon does not admit, for the Catholic Church requires that which is blameless. A priest who has committed a crime cannot be act according to his ministry. If anyone who has lapsed have been ordained through the ignorance or even with a previous knowledge of the ordainers, they shall not prejudice the canon of the church, for when they are discovered, they shall be deposed. People who uh, who followed the pagan tradition forced upon during persecution would not be allowed to exercise as priests. Concerning those who have fallen without compulsion, without spoiling of their property, without danger or the like, as happened during the tyranny of Licinius, the city declares that though they have deserved no clemency, they shall be dealt with mercifully. In the rights and privileges of those who had fallen under the pressure of persecution. As many were called by grace and displaced by their first seal, have cast down their military girdles, but afterwards returned like dogs unto their own vomit. People who rejected the faith. Concerning the department of the ancient canonical law is still to be maintained, to wit, that if any man be at point of death, he must not be deprived of the last and most indispensable viaticum. But if anyone should be restored to health, who has received the communion when his life was despaired of, let him remain among those who communicate in prayers only, but in general. talking about the people who have been excommunicated and are currently on their deathbed. They can receive communion. Concerning catechumens who have lapsed, once again, catechumens are people who are about to be baptized. If they let themselves be pressured by the persecution. Canon 15, on account of the great disturbance and discords that occur, it is agreed that custom prevailing in certain places contrary to the canon most holy to be done away with, so that neither bishop, presbyter, nor deacon shall pass from the city to city. A bishop or a priest cannot move from one city to another. They should remain steadfast in the parish that they have. Neither prayers nor deacons nor any other enrolled among the clergy, who not having the fear of God before their eyes, nor regarding their ecclesiastical canon, shall recklessly remove their own from their own church. Canon 16 is a continuation from Canon 15. 70. For as much as any enrolled during the clergy following conventions, lust, and gain have regarded the divine scripture, which says, He has not given his money upon usury. In other words, prohibition from priests to participate in lending money. It has come to the knowledge of this holy and great standard that in some cases, districts and cities, the deacons administer the Eucharist to the presbyters. Okay, this is establishing a rank between deacons and priests. The deacon cannot give the communion to a priest because a priest has a higher rank. The priest gives the Eucharist to the deacon. The he who has a higher rank gives it to the he who is from a lower rank. Um, 19. It has come to the knowledge of the holy and great Senate. We already saw that, right? 19. Concerning the Palestinists. The Palestinists was a sect of people who um, it was a whole completely religion, which I'm not going to touch into that because it does not have anything to do with the purpose of this video. We don't have the time to look at what Palestinianism was. But it has nothing to do with Easter. Canon 20, for as much as there are certain persons who kneel in the Lord's Day and in the days of Pentecost, therefore, to the intent that all things may uniformly observed everywhere in every parish, it seems good to the Holy Senate that prayer be made to God standing. In other words, during very special feasts, prayers are to be done while standing, not in their knees, on their knees. Therefore, we see here that the Council of Nicaea has nothing to do with changing dates um, for how to celebrate Easter. Ya vimos dos documentos del siglo IV, del tiempo de Constantino, y en ninguno de los documentos vemos que Constantino haya cambiado fechas de la Pascua. We have seen two different documents from the time of Constantine, and we don't see in any of these two documents any evidence of Constantine changing the date of Easter. So that is a lie. De hecho, esta controversia que estamos viendo sobre Constantino y la Pascua viene de mucho más atrás. Se nos documenta que viene desde el segundo siglo y que es una controversia tan, pero tan vieja que hasta el mismo Policarpo, quien fue discípulo del apóstol Juan, se reúne con el Papa Aniceto para tratar de llegar a una conclusión. History points to us that this debate between when is Easter to be celebrated or Passover is so old that we find that Polycarp, a former disciple of the Apostle John, a disciple of the very apostles, meets up with Pope Anicetus to talk and see, to come to a conclusion as to when and how is this um, controversy to be settled. Cuando Policarpo and antiguo discípulo del apóstol Juan, se reúne con el Papa Aniceto por el año 150, porque el Papa Aniceto, perdón, el Policarpo para ese tiempo tenía ya arriba de 80 años. Toman la conclusión de que estas diferencias entre si seguir el 14 de Nisan, según la luna, el calendario lunar, o en viernes y la Pascua en un domingo, como se hacía en los calendarios solares, ambos eran legítimos y válidos dependiendo si venían de la cultura oriental, que usaba el calendario lunar, o occidental, que usaban el calendario solar. We find that around the time of Pope Victor, who ruled the church towards the end of the second century. This is about 114 years before Constantine. This council came close to dividing the church. Vemos que ahí a finales del siglo II, el Papa Víctor I toma algunas decisiones referentes a estas fechas que casi terminan dividiendo la iglesia, except that through the advice and the suggestions um, of Irenaeus, who, being of Greek origin, living in the West, knew both calendars. He counseled the Pope not to take extreme measures, explaining that this was merely a difference in culture, not a difference in faith. Inclusive, en tiempos del Papa Víctor I, esa decisión que casi divide la iglesia, en el Ireneo escribe una carta al Papa Víctor I, que gobernó los últimos años del segundo siglo. Estamos hablando de 114 años antes de Constantino. Y les menciona que estas diferencias son culturales, no son diferencias dogmáticas y por lo tanto no es cuestión de imponer una fecha sobre otra, ya que no hay ningún error, ninguna herejía dogmática. Okay. Ahora, estos herejes que me pararon en la puerta ayer en la tienda, luego trataron de mencionar Levítico como la justificación por ellos querer imponer esta costumbre que ellos querían imponer a la fuerza. Pero lo que no toman en mente es que Levítico se refiere a la antigua alianza. La antigua alianza que queda sustituida y reemplazada con la nueva alianza de Cristo. Por lo tanto, los que estamos sujetos a Cristo no estamos impuestos a seguir la costumbre del 14 de Nisan. Podemos, si queremos. De hecho, hay ramas del cristianismo que sí lo hacen, como los ortodoxos. Pero no nos corresponde imponer eso. Es más, hay un texto donde Pablo dice que ninguno los moleste sobre motivos de fiestas y de luna nueva. Es decir, nadie tiene derecho de venir a imponer a otro, no adores a Dios en tal día, adóralo en ese otro día mejor, no digas para Pascua en tal día, soy esto. No, Pablo rotundamente lo prohíbe. Ahora, also, those heathens also presented as a reason for trying to impose the 14th of Nisan, the lunar calendar for the celebration of Easter. He tried to cite the book of Leviticus, but he was not taking into account that the book of Leviticus was written in the old alliance, under the law of Moses, under the priesthood of of Aaron, which Christ abolished upon the cross. Therefore, Paul writes, let no one approach you with dissensions about feasts and new moons and full moons. In other words, they were breaking the gospel. They were violating the statutes left by the apostles, where it says that they cannot approach people, telling people that they're observing, that the observance is wrong because they're observing a different day. Les expliqué a esos herejes de que de que Levítico es la antigua alianza y por lo tanto a los que estamos sujetos a la nueva alianza no estamos sujetos a ella. Les pregunté sobre la circuncisión. Les dije, ¿están ustedes circuncidados? Dijo, no, no estamos circuncidados, estamos bautizados. Le dije, tienes razón, porque la nueva alianza establecida por Cristo en la cruz quita la antigua alianza misma que ellos estaban queriendo imponer. Y así como ya no es importante la circuncisión, tampoco es importante la fecha de 15 de Nisan. Esto, y que la misma Cristo dice, si se viola una parte de la regla, se viola toda. O sea que quien quiera seguir la ley de Moisés tiene que seguirla toda. Quien quiera imponer a la fuerza el 14 de Nisan también debería circuncidarse. De lo contrario, es hipocresía. I asked them about circumcision, whether they were circumcised. They said, no, we don't circumcise because of baptism. I said, yes, because Christ did away with the law of Moses, the priesthood of Aaron, which imposes circumcision and Passover on the 14th of Nisan, being the old alliance. And just as those of us of the new alliance are not required to be circumcised because of baptism, we're no longer to be subject to the laws of Moses, citing the 14th of Nisan as the only legitimate date to celebrate Passover or Easter. It is hypocrisy to say, oh, you have to have Passover on the 14th of Nisan and refuse to be circumcised. Le pregunté a ellos entonces si ellos están queriendo seguir el 14 de Nisan, que entonces están queriendo seguir un calendario lunar. Que me digan según ese calendario lunar cuál es la fecha. No me la supieron decir. Lo que significa que ni ellos mismos saben de lo que están hablando. I told them that since they want to impose the 14th of Nisan, they're trying to impose following a lunar calendar. I asked them what date was it in the lunar calendar. They were not able to tell me, which means they don't even know what they're talking about. Viva Cristo Rey! Long live Christ the King!